Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. With that being said, welcome to our new video, which is talking about social distancing on rides at amusement parks and theme parks across the United States. Thank you for joining me. My name is Chris from Midwest Coaster Fans. As we start off here, you will see a survey from Universal Studios that talks about the same, and that's going to be above, obviously. And also, there's a second question that asks about 3D glasses. So that kind of brings to light what we're talking about in this video with social distancing going on with the COVID-19. And in the last series, I kind of talked about how they might implement that into parks, but I didn't really go into huge detail on how it would work on rides. This survey kind of brings to light kind of what the amusement parks are thinking about doing across the country. And obviously, social distancing in lines using the tape could work. And I didn't mention this in the last video because it was talking about virtual queues. But also they could add portable hand washing stations to rides that have longer queues, such as roller coasters and the other popular parks or popular rides in the parks. And then implementing social distancing in the lines, and also obviously new cleaning standards throughout the park. And if you want to look at it, how they're going to do it on a roller coaster, obviously roller coasters are going to go too fast for your guests to be able to wear masks. So you're going to have to go to another way, which would be if you're with somebody. So if you have two people in a group riding a roller coaster, you would be able to ride together. But other than that, I mean, if it's a single rider, you're not going to have anybody that's not in your group next to you. So single riders would be riding alone, and they wouldn't be able to fill in the spots. And then what they would have to do to keep the social distancing going is to ensure that they're utilizing only every other row, which could work, but you'd have roller coaster trains that are only half full. And then in terms of some of them that have, 3 seats per car, like the Beast, I think you would have to go, obviously, the front and the back one and leave the middle one empty. And I'm not even certain if that is considered to be 6 feet. So that is some of the things that they are looking at. And then I know Universal's looking at, like, some of their 3D rides only filling up every other row, or sorry, you could fill up every row as long as they're 6 feet apart, ensuring that guests are only able to utilize, depending on how the seating is set up, they're only able to utilize it where they're 6 feet apart unless they're together in a group, and then you could sit them together. So there's a lot of different techniques that have to take place on this. And I think it could work because you're at least getting people in the parks to ride the coasters and rides. But there are going to be a lot of upset people because you're going to see a lot of half-full trains. But parks are going to have to implement these measures to ensure certain things until the spread goes down and we can kind of get rid of this. And cleaning standards are obviously going to be heightened. And I could foresee parks continuing this until further notice. And then on kiddie rides, I think you would be fine because the kids are going to be spread 6 feet apart at least on most of those kiddie rides, and most of the other rides like, Octopus and Scrambler and rides like that, people are sitting far enough apart where you don't have to worry about separating them. You would just have to make sure that the people are in the same group when they're sitting together on those, and that holds true with rides and also on kiddie rides. You can't obviously sit other kids with a different group anymore like what used to happen. So there's a lot of different standards that are going to change. And then when you look at a ride like the train ride at a lot of the parks, you're going to have people occupy every other row on that as well. And on the carousel, you're only going to be able to have certain animals occupied because you're going to have to keep certain distance with that as well. And I think this could all work when the parks reopen. I don't think it's going to be anything bad. I think it's actually a good thing. And in terms, when I look at over at Universal Studios, how they have the shooting, and other places that have the shooting attractions or the 3D rides and attractions. As long as you're sitting people in a group and not with other people, you'll be perfectly fine with this new standard, because you have enough trains and vehicles on that ride where it's not going to make a huge difference. The only rides I think that are going to have a huge impact with this are going to be the roller coasters, and if they occupy every other row. And then I look at, roller coasters such as Diamondback, that has kind of the separation that you need between seats, and you could probably keep every single row occupied. But in terms of like sitting together, you're going to have to, groups of two are going to sit on the rows that are kind of right next to each other. And then if you have people that are by themselves, they could sit in the spread apart rows, because you have the offset rows on Diamondback. And I know some other roller coasters across the country are like that as well. Like I said, I think that could work. As for the 3D glasses, I think they'll be fine, because they were talking about how they're going to work with that. And as long as you wipe down and clean each pair of glasses, you're perfectly fine, because you're killing that bacteria or virus. And then in terms of ride operators, they would obviously have to wear masks. And it's a whole thing, and I know parks are looking at all this. That's why these surveys are coming out. Let me know what you think about what I think standard-wise will change with the rides. Let me know if you think what I've talked about is something that you could see definitely happening. And I know some people might be upset about this, but if parks are working with this in order to get the parks reopened, we as patrons have to understand and have to be patient with the parks and understand that these new standards might take some time to get used to, but they're not going to be permanent. They're just going to be temporary. And if we want to ride our favorite rides and roller coasters, we're going to have to work with parks. And then for those of you that don't have any patience and don't want to work with it, then my recommendation would be just to stay home until things get somewhat back to normal in the parks. But this is going to be the new standard until they can figure out more things, what's going on with this virus. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video on Midwest Coaster Fans. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button. And this is Chris signing off for Midwest Coaster Fans. Until next time, thanks again for watching.